Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Hans, for working together with me on this and for your leadership on this effort. And I also want to thank the Council President for her work and pushing us all towards a racial equity lens. I think we're going to serve as a model for the nation and for surrounding jurisdictions. So thank you. Yesterday, I just want to make a couple of brief remarks as the co-lead sponsor for this resolution. Yesterday, we celebrated and commemorated Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday with a great day of service and inspiration. I myself went to about 5 events across the county, and it was just a great time. People from all races and faiths and ethnicities and backgrounds were together serving our community and having what we call a day on, not a day off, and it was a great day. But I think one of the things that often is forgotten when we celebrate Dr. King is that he was a victim of this domestic terrorism that has its roots in hatred of racism, and he was killed. He was assassinated in part of that, and he was murdered. And so the day after we celebrate, in a day that's very rightfully so, commemorating his legacy of service and importance, as Hans mentioned, in many parts of the country, we memorialize the people that either advocated for or participated in these horrible acts of terrorism against African Americans, but we do not memorialize or remember the victims. We have a specific name for this type of systematic domestic terrorism and murder of African Americans. One of the most heinous forms of it is called lynching. But I think that word falls short of conveying the sheer brutality, the terror, the grotesque and violent nature of these public murders. This is a horrific reality of our shared history as Americans, one that we need to remember. This summer, in fact, is going to mark the 400th year anniversary of the beginning of slavery here in America, when slaves were first recorded in Jamestown, Virginia. I will be offering a resolution to call on Montgomery County to do everything we can to acknowledge this legacy of slavery in the country, and making sure that we remember the past so that we can prevent future atrocities, and calling on all our communities to come together as collective identity as Americans. I believe it's only by facing our past and identifying the roots of hatred and civil divisiveness do we have any hope of a future for peace and unity and prosperity. I want to thank again President Navarro. I want to thank the many, many people in the room who will be involved in this commission in making sure this history gets shared with all of our residents and children and community members. And I want to also say that I think it's important that we call out the names of these individuals that we know about here in the county that were killed. Hans alluded to them. George W. Peck, John Diggs, and Sidney Randolph were the 3 men that we have recorded being murdered before public crowds right here in Montgomery County. And while we remember Dr. King yesterday, I think it's important we remember their names as well. We cannot mask this history if we're going to move past it, and knowing who they are and what they contributed and what happened to them is an important part of that history. So again, as we remember the names of George Peck, John Diggs, and Sidney Randolph, we acknowledge our past history of discrimination and murder here in the county and in the nation, and hopefully this resolution and this process will help us bring us on a much needed journey of reconciliation and peace in the future. So thank you again, Hans. It's great to work with you on it.